Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unify podcast. My name is Brandyn Keating. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Unify, a nonprofit helping you flourish and thrive. And I'm also the host of our podcast. I'm really excited to be joined today by Ben Rekhi. Ben is an award-winning filmmaker. He has worked in various capacities during his more than 20-year career. He produced the cult classic graffiti film, Bomb the System, directed the spiritual thriller The Ashram with Academy Award winner Melissa Leo, and also produced the film The Reunited States with CNN contributor Van Jones. Today, we're going to be talking about his latest film, Oscar qualified, The Breakthrough Group. And Ben, I'm just so thrilled to be here with you today. The Breakthrough Group is such a powerful look inside the recovery community. It goes beyond addiction and rehabilitation and really digs into what happens when people stop running from their past and start holding each other to something better. So before we get into all of that subject matter, would love to just learn a little bit more about you and help the audience get to know you better. What was young Ben like, and how did you become this guy who's making all of these films?
Yeah, well, great to be here, Brandyn. It's a big honor. I love what you're doing with your work in the podcast. Growing up, I grew up in Northern California in a biracial household. My dad was from India. My mom is American. And so I grew up going to church and to temple and didn't realize how much those two different perspectives really shaped me and led to things like the Reunited States, which is trying to like bring two different points of view together, which is something that's so badly needed in this country right now.
So badly needed.
And it's just never ending. And I think that the experience of growing up in a multicultural neighborhood was that, you know, we found games to play and sort of video cameras at a young age as a way to tell stories together and bond.
Nice.
And so I guess from about 10 or 12 onwards, we were making these like short films and got together with some friends on the weekends and just kind of kept snowballing from there.
Wow.
And found ways to tell really interesting stories. I mean, at the time, it was just action movies with like lightsabers and, you know, we were doing stunts and getting hurt and stuff. But this was pre-YouTube.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it was. It was a really formative experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, before the kind of digital like video revolution. And so, yeah, going to school and kind of learning that storytelling could be used for more transformative purposes.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously to entertain first and foremost, but it has this really immersive quality. Like, how do you take all of the, you know, art forms, whether it's theater, music, literature, and combine it into cinema? It has this immersive quality where you can lose yourself in the story and character and maybe learn something more about yourself and the way to see the world. So that's what interests me now, is how to use cinema in that way.
Amazing. So for people who maybe know you through your film and your storytelling and all of these really meaty issues that you've explored, but maybe don't know the rest of Ben, what would they be surprised to know about you? What kind of secret talents or hobbies or whatever do you have hiding?
This is kind of generic, but I'm a foodie. Like, I love like venturing out. Like, I was even looking around the neighborhood here where to grab a sandwich or something afterwards. I love to travel. I have kind of like an improvisational way of living life. Like, I think I try and be much more experiential and look for experiences over material things. I'd much rather have a great memory than like a great car.
Totally.
But yeah, I guess, and I think listening is an art form. I think a lot of people are waiting to hear themselves talk. And
so true.
A lot of us are just waiting to be seen and heard. And I really enjoy, and I'm fascinated with humans. I really love to hear and meet so many different types of people. Yeah, I'm trying to think of something more quirky, but it'll come to me as we talk.
Okay. Well, definitely if that quirky thing comes in, let me know.
Okay.
And I am going to have to remember to pick your brain about the food of LA.
I got you. I got a whole map that I've been cultivating.
I love everything about this. So as you know, with Unify, we focus a lot on human flourishing, and curious about, just for you personally, is there something that's challenging your flourishing right now, and maybe one thing that's helping you flourish and thrive?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's such a big question. I think that like what I've learned and, what I still grapple with is the story we tell ourselves about our life often dictates how we live it and how much peace we find. And so I oftentimes I'm still unpacking narratives about who Ben is and what I should be doing and what standard I hold myself to, or comparing yourself to other. I just, the self-criticism that so many of us feel is real and dominates our life. And so for me, I lost my mom in the past year.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. It's been sort of coming to terms with identity outside of that and like unpacking a lot of the childhood stuff that you go through, and sort of forging a new relationship with my family in the light of that, and sort of not having, this dynamic. It's creating a new dynamic, and that's forcing, it kind of brings up a lot of stuff about yourself from childhood. So yeah, I mean, I feel more at peace and more, confident than I ever have, but there's always these moments where you kind of like question what we're here to do, what we're here for.
Yeah.
And, I think those questions will never leave us. It's how we deal with it that matters.
Yeah, how we work with them over time. Yeah, and certainly I feel like the storytelling you do is can be a catalyst for that self-reflection for folks and for grappling with those sorts of things.
Totally.
Speaking of that, as your career has evolved, have you noticed that there are certain themes or certain questions that surface over and over again? Or has it sort of branched off in different directions, or maybe a combination of the two?
I think about this a lot because it's not something that's intentional at the time, but, looking back, I guess the stories that explore the extremities of the human condition, like people pushed to their limits in different walks of life. I really feel, one of the films I'm most proud of was in the Philippines about a woman during the drug wars. And it was a place I'd never really been before or knew much about, but I just felt very compelled, and I could not stop thinking about this news article and this woman's journey.
Wow.
And I feel like it's a spooky thing, creativity, because it kind of comes to you out of nowhere. And, it's sort of like the whole Rick Rubin school of thought, like it's your job then to honor it and be tasked with it and not question it or adulterate it. So I guess these stories that really show our shared humanity through the biggest challenges that we face, I guess, is the theme. And whether that's like polarization and people losing loved ones or being put in difficult situations where their true nature comes out. Those are the themes that are most interesting to me, whatever genre, whether it's thriller, comedy, horror, people being pushed to their breaking point.
And while it is in those moments that we reveal our character, or our character reveals itself to us.
Yes,
right?
Totally. Yeah. You never know who someone is when you're in the good times. It's always when things go wrong that you see people who they really are.
Absolutely. And so let's dig into The Breakthrough Group, the latest film. And this particular film is a little bit personal for you, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, like you said earlier, The Breakthrough Group is set inside of a behavioral community for people at the end of their rope. People who are about to give up on life, whether it's, coming out of prison or deep addiction or just, really dark depths of depression. And they're using a really novel model of peer-led accountability and, no PhD clinicians, no therapists, no medications. It's really people who have been through these difficult times calling each other out.
Wow.
And helping the next, generation. And as someone who struggled with addiction and depression a lot in my earlier life, I wish there was a place like this or a community like this that I knew about.
Oh, wow.
And they're really pushing the boundaries and in sort of, I don't want to say controversial, but in very novel ways. And community being the core of it, that, you're around this group of 100 people day and night for 2.5 years, that really help you out of these dark depths. And so, yeah, as someone who struggled with those in my own past, I really related to it because it's easy to disregard people and say, oh, you're an addict, or oh, you've been to prison.
Right.
And there's a stigma that follows you.
Right.
And all of us know someone who struggles with addiction. 50 million Americans have abused some substance in the past month.
Right. So deep in our culture. Yeah.
1 in 6 people. And so if it's not you directly, it's definitely a family member or a friend. And it's hard. This isn't a straight line to get out of these problems.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was personal in a lot of ways.
And so how did you first discover the Other Side Academy, and when did you know you had to make this film?
I'd first heard about it through a journalist friend, Ann Snyder Brooks, and she had written a book called The Fabric of Character that talked about different ways that community was used to help bring out people's strongest character. And she had done the research and heard about them through the moving company that they have. And I just could not get it out of my head after she told me about it. And she was like, you know what, why don't you just go there and see for yourself what's happening?
Yeah.
And so I went there for a weekend without a camera crew and just stayed at the facility, got to know the founders, slept on premises, ate with everybody, and really saw, just standing against the wall as sort of a fly on the wall, the practice that they were doing and how people were pushing through these really intense behavioral moments. And there was a lot of screaming and crying, and I was just observing.
Yeah.
And, in a positive way, not in an abusive way, people kind of confronting their own sort of breaking points.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I really think this can help other people, as a way to amplify what you're doing, that people might see their own struggles in it, regardless of your circumstance.
And so you did end up then spending a significant amount of time without cameras in the community. How did that influence what the film ultimately was? How do you think it influenced how people showed up when you did roll in with cameras?
Yeah, as a documentary filmmaker, I'm fascinated with this line between how the camera influences reality and vice versa. And so much of what we do is building trust to get to this point, because you're asking people to share the thing that's most sacred to them, like their story, and especially in this case, very vulnerable, dark parts of their lives. And so it was as much a way for me to learn about them as it was for them to learn about me and trust me and see what is your intentions here. I mean, when I showed up at breakfast, they thought I was a new student. They would come up to me and be like, hey, we haven't seen you here. Do you have any questions? And, I would tell them right away, who I was and what I was doing. Yeah. But a big part of it was just observing daily life there, and also them asking me questions, because it's not like they don't know what I'm going to do with it. Am I trying to do this exploitative piece or do something that is like a takedown? So it was really spending time both ways so that I could meet them and they could meet me.
And then as you started filming, just, by nature of where you were and what the community is dedicated to, part and parcel of it was filming people at their most vulnerable moments. So what were some of the biggest challenges of working in that kind of emotionally intense environment?
It's all started with identifying the characters to begin with. There were 4 people that we settled on. And then the program director, Dave, the 5th one, who was also formerly incarcerated and ended up being a really great case study of how the practice works. But we probably, interviewed 12 or 14 people just to see, who would be a good fit for the type of story we were telling. People that were going through the process that hadn't already looked back on it, but were in the middle of it. But also, it was really important for us to not interfere with their growth, because again, having a camera
they're there to do something very serious, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then we would end up being right there as they're talking about something deeply personal. The camera has a tendency to change people's behaviors, and they might become, ego might get in the way, or they think they're being famous, or they may play up or play down certain things. And so it was really important that we felt more invisible and that they knew we were there to capture the truth as it was. Yeah. And we also, you talked about the vulnerable part, we didn't want any of the work we were doing to make anyone feel pressured or on the spot,
Right.
which could be really damaging for their growth too. And so
Yeah.
we constantly gave them off ramps and said like, look, if you don't want us to film this, let us know. Or we'd stop the camera for a second and be like, are you okay? Just so that they would have the opportunity to know that it wasn't, there wasn't pressure on them.
Right.
And so that trust back and forth was crucial.
Sounds like a really delicate process.
Yeah, it was. And in fact, like, you know, our producer, Doug Blush, who won the Oscar for The Elephant Whisperers,
Mm-hmm.
when he first saw a cut of the film, he was like, how did you get this access? Like, you normally don't get this kind of up close personal access of people actually going through it and
Right.
pushing through their demons. It's usually backward looking.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize like how kind of rare and beautiful that was, but it was
Yeah.
just really, I think it came down to when we asked people, are you okay sharing everything with us? The response was, if this can help one other person,
Wow.
then it's been worth it.
Wow.
And that was like really touching, that it was a very generous thing that they did.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think having seen the film, it's an incredibly powerful film. And knowing that there is that intention underneath it, you know, sort of makes it even more so.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, so many of us walk around with these wounds and these challenges and this awful voice in our head sort of telling us we're not good enough.
Right.
And this, seeing people externalize those feelings, or, you know, there's this scene towards the end that I don't want to give away, but this young man is basically saying like, I'm worthless. I hate myself. My life hasn't amounted to anything.
Wow.
And he's externalizing this dialogue that a lot of us don't even know that we have running in our minds. And so there's this weird self-identification that happens with the audience where it's sort of a slow burn. The hope is that by the end, you lose yourself. You don't know where you end and the characters begin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where real change and transformation can happen, because then you're actually living the life of the character.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it really was from a place of kind of generous support, because the people who are going through it have gotten support from their peers
Yeah.
that they want to pay it forward. And that's where they find purpose, is helping others.
Incredible. So for people who are watching or listening and they're thinking this sounds intriguing, maybe it could help them themselves, or maybe it could help somebody they know. How do they see the film? But more than see the film, how do they engage with the film?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're still on the festival circuit, and we've been screening a lot at rehab clinics and prisons and sort of nonprofits that work with people after prison. And so, you know, we have a screening at San Quentin coming up. We're screening for the Doe Fund in New York, and the Anti-Recidivism Coalition is a partner. And so we are going to put the film and distribute it online in the next couple of months.
Amazing.
Maybe by the time this comes out, there'll be something in the liner notes. But
Yeah.
it really, we made it with the goal of helping people feel less alone. And in the end, that's what it's for. It's like, how do we amplify that?
Yeah.
So it'll be coming out soon.
Awesome. And is there a public schedule of those screenings, or if people want to host a screening, is there a way for them to do that?
Totally. Yeah. We should actually put that information in there.
Yeah.
There's nothing on like a website right now, but there is a screening circuit that we're doing. So maybe I'll get you the information afterwards that we can share.
Yeah. So folks, if you are intrigued by what you've heard, inspired by it, we'll have all the details below in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and across our social media as well, for you to get connected up with the different ways to engage with the film. And if you're liking what you're hearing, if you're feeling like maybe it could help somebody else, maybe you want to make a difference right now, a great way to do that is to go ahead and click the subscribe button, click the like button, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear what you're thinking or experiencing. And you can also share. And any of those actions just helps this get in front of more eyeballs and help more people. So that's a great way to make a difference right now. And we also have the information there for the Leadership for Flourishing book and the Write the Future campaign, where you can get involved in your local community with imagining and taking action steps about the hopeful future. So Ben, from a storytelling standpoint, you mentioned that you did some interviews to figure out, you know, which stories did you really want to highlight of the individuals. How did you balance or make choices about highlighting people people's individual journeys and, sort of telling the story of the whole group and the power that the process that they're using has?
Right. Yeah, it's a really good question because there's 4 storylines that kind of interweave throughout it. And each one ideally should show a different dimension to the process. And so, there was a gentleman who had been a Crip gang member in LA for a number of years, had done very violent things, had been in prison for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And, is much older and is still in this process of trying to live a different life. And his story was really about at any age, you can still make a change.
Yeah.
And he was doing it for his adult children because he had missed their childhood by running the streets and a lot of the stuff that he was doing. And he was like, I can't help my children unless I fix myself first. So there was this incentive for him that when they do need him, he'll be able to be there for them.
Amazing. And that's kind of a storyline of being able to change at any age is resonant across all humans, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's scary to I think a lot of people are like, I am the way that I am.
Yeah.
And, I've lived most of my life, or I've lived a good chunk of my life. Like, things haven't worked out the way that I wanted. And there's this sort of unconscious letting yourself off the hook from doing the work. And it's really, usually people change when they have to.
Right.
When something in their life falls apart, like a job, a sickness, a loss,
There's
a heartbreak.
A forcing mechanism.
Yeah. That tells you like the tools that you have before will not help you moving ahead.
Right.
And so you need to stop and cultivate more tools and kind of do some work inside. And it's not easy. I think the other thing is people are scared to face that side of themselves. Like it's very hard to acknowledge I am making things more difficult for myself and I am in my own way. And I didn't even realize it.
Right.
And so realizing it is a first step and then being like, oh gosh, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And that was why like the Tristan character was another really important one to follow because she was struggling with a lot of different issues, like her sexual identity, the way that she had, in her words, used and abused other people for her own gain. And being able to push through that and say, I thought I was giving them something, but I was really taking something from them that was very selfish. And to be able to kind of identify it and say, like, I've hurt all these people in my life. Like, I wasn't a good daughter. I wasn't a good sister. Like, all I did was hurt and take. And to be able to say that, I mean, you've seen it, but there's this really emotional scene with her and her mother at the end where she's like, I'm sorry. Like, I was a burden on you. And her mom cries and says, you were never a burden. And she says, yes, I was, Mom. You didn't deserve that. And I hurt you really bad. And for someone to be able to take that ownership for themselves and apologize to a loved one, a lot of us don't get that closure in our lives.
Exactly.
We don't be able to talk openly with people. And so there's something deeply human and personal about these moments of change that like people can change. You're not who you are forever. It just takes a lot of hard work and a lot of community.
Yeah. And I feel like I might have pulled you off the track a little bit there. So you have these beautiful individual storylines. And then there's also this story, the sort of expression of what the group as a whole is doing and the power of that.
Right.
So yeah, how did you balance that?
I'm so glad you brought it back here. The process, the secret sauce of this community is full accountability for everything that you do. Because like Dave, the program director says, it's not drugs and alcohol that are the problem. Like you can stop drinking for 30, 60, 90 days, but it's the behavior underneath that led you to do that still needs fixing. And so this accountability, are you hiding things? Are you lying? Are you being sneaky? Are you manipulating? Those are the things they actually really want to call out in each other. And so they have this thing called pull-ups, which is like if you got caught stealing something or lying about something, you get pulled up and you get like, some consequence of like a day of work or a week of work. And then the name of the film came from the actual breakthrough groups that they have, which is sort of a peer-led group therapy where everyone sits in chairs across the room from each other. you drop a slip, you write down some behavior you want to address in that person, and then everyone gets a chance to call out someone on some behavior that they did. And
Interesting.
it can get pretty heated.
Intense.
Yeah. And they
Yeah.
have rules like you can't sit side by side if you're going to call someone out. You have to sit across the room. It's never, ever gotten violent.
Yeah.
But they're swearing and they're yelling and like, you did this and you said this. And then other people pile on and be like, he's right. You have done this. And a lot of defensiveness comes up. But to a T, everyone told me that's where the most growth happens, because you might get upset in the moment, but you take it to your pillow at night and you think about it and you're like, they were right.
Yeah.
And that's where you can really do the hard work. So breaking through really is an act. If you care about someone, true concern is calling them out. It's not letting bad behavior slide.
Yeah. And I think, again, applicable to anyone's life anywhere is this culture of both accountability and that there's not an expectation of perfection, right? Like you are going to make mistakes and you're not out and excommunicated if you make mistakes.
Totally.
You're still loved. You're still part of the group if you take that accountability. I just think that's applicable everywhere in life.
Yeah, we're all going to fall short. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to hurt people. We're all going to hurt ourselves. The question is, what do you do about it? Can you own it? Can you acknowledge, like, I made a mistake, I hurt you, or I did something wrong? I mean, one of the best ways this is illustrated in the film is with that soda can. Like, there's one gentleman who gets caught stealing a soda can on camera. And you watch as this conversation unravels about this seemingly petty theft that almost unravels his entire life because of it, because it's about something deeper. It's like, why is he trying to hide this? Why is he being sneaky? Why is he stealing from the place that's trying to save his life?
Trying to help him,
And so that ownership of the accountability and forgiveness is key. And, you know, if you don't own it, then you might not last there. They have high standards and stuff, you know? So there is a forgiveness up to a point. And it's like, if you're willing to do the work, you can stay. But if you resist and you fight it, it's not good for anyone. It doesn't help anyone else there either.
Yeah, fascinating. So Ben, is there, you've done a bunch of screenings, and actually, before I get there, I want to ask you to briefly describe to the audience, what does it mean to be an Oscar qualified film? How does a film get to be Oscar qualified? Sounds pretty fancy.
Yeah, it's been a steep learning curve just to understand it myself. But, in the documentary short category, there is about 100 films that qualify for the Oscars in the end. And there's two ways to do it. Either you play at an Oscar qualifying festival and win an award there, or you four-wall it, you rent out a theater and play it for a week. And so not many films actually go down that road and qualify. And so in a strange and beautiful way, the Oscar short and the live action short, the documentary short categories are where outsiders can really break in and get into the awards conversation. And it's very interesting to see how this works, because once you are qualified, then it's how much you're willing to campaign. And it takes a lot of effort, time, money to do this. It's like full time for several months. And then there's a whole kind of community that you get to know and supports. And then there's all these voters out there. So there's a very human element to like campaigning.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an honor to be in that final 100 films.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And well deserved.
Thanks so much.
Amazing. And so is there one thing that you hope that audiences will take away from the film, and or have you been surprised by any of the feedback that you have gotten?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I mean, the feedback, I'll start there just because it's been very emotional. The film unlocks something in people that is very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so many people after screenings have come up and told us their stories of overcoming addiction, or I've been in AA for 12 years, or I have a cousin who's a crack addict, and like kind of creates this space where people can actually talk about these things that we feel like we need to keep private because, it's family business. And then as the takeaways, I guess it's twofold depending on if you're someone struggling with addiction or someone who loves someone that is struggling with depression too, just that you're not alone.
Yes.
That these dark thoughts that, surface from time to time in your life, and for some people that are there constantly, you're not alone in that, and that you can talk about it with people, and that there are people that want to help you through that. And I think we try and put on this brave face or hold it back. And so feeling less alone and getting sort of the tools to identify, wait, this is happening and there's something I can do about it. It just feels more empowering and hopeful. And then for those that have a loved one or a family member, I think it offers a ray of hope that like, even if it's been 2, 4, 5, 10 years of an addiction, people can always change.
Yeah.
And it's about finding that support system or that belief system or, helping them get there in a way that also protects you. Because so many of us get caught up in the struggles of others, especially when it's a family member, that it can take you down with them. And so knowing how to draw boundaries too.
Yeah. And I mean, just observing the sheer courage of the folks who are part of the story, I think is inspirational to any human. It certainly was to me. So if you're watching or listening, certainly encourage you to do yourself a favor and watch the film. We'll have all the links below to watch the film, engage with it. And we're really excited for you, Ben, and your success with this film. Can't wait to see what you do next.
Thanks,
and hope
Brandyn.
that you'll come back here and keep talking with us.
Of course, this has been fantastic. I really appreciated your questions and insights.
Awesome. All right, folks. Well, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to get this great information to more folks. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the Unified Podcast.
This is awesome.
Yay.
From the reunited states to breaking through.
I know.
I love it. And
It's a
also
journey.
Nexus, like there's so many different